What we do is we have an automated misting system, kind of like when you go to the grocery store and you see vegetables getting sprayed. We do that on homes, businesses, including, and we're food safe, so we can do it, restaurants, anything like that. They've been around for 20 years. Started out in Texas and then franchised out of Jacksonville. I heard about them when I was looking for a place to put my retirement and grow.
Are you still in corporate, or you were still in corporate when that happened?
In March of 25, my cousin committed suicide. And then when that happened, it kind of helped with that wake-up call. So I started looking harder at how do I build long-term wealth. I started looking at where can I put my investment money. You started the question by asking, are you still in corporate? The answer is yes.
I just love the way that you speak about it, because I think that it's not easy.
Jason, I really call this relentless consistency.
Hi everyone, I'm Jason Balara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast. Today I'm here with Danielle Joleigh Bennett, a globally recognized transformational leader, founder, keynote speaker, and U.S. Navy veteran, known for building people, businesses, and enduring legacy. She's the founder and CEO of Radiant Legacy Collective and leads growth platforms, including Mosquito Nix, Franchise Voltage, Business Voltage, Leadership Voltage, and DS7 Precision Strategies. There's going to be a lot to talk about. Danielle, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really do appreciate you taking the time out to chat with me, and I'm looking forward to the conversation very much.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Jason, for having me. And now that you know my full name, you can call me Danny if you'd like.
Perfect. That'll make it easier going forward. I always like to, the bios are great, but I think it doesn't really tell the real story of the guest. So I always just like to start with having you tell us about yourself, tell us your background. We talked a little bit before, but I would love for you to share with the listeners a bit about yourself, and then we'll dive in from there.
Sure, I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. Otherwise, we'll be here for the whole time. So, joined the Navy in 2005 after I couldn't afford college, like many people do. Went to college, got through the Navy. I did 5 deployments. So, it was both an enlisted aviation electrician's mate and a supply corps officer. So, I did both, about 7 years on the enlisted side, 7 years on the officer side. Then I was medically retired for endocrine disorder in 2018. Started my corporate career. Been doing that since late 2018, and here we are now. So 2018 through 2025, still in corporate. This is my exit strategy. Started Radiant Legacy in 2025. So gender transition started December 2024, and then everything in my business started to kind of get bigger and more in starting like mid 25. Things started growing. So I opened Radiant Legacy Collective as a way to use my rollover 401k to invest in my business. And then to open Mosquito Nix, which is a franchise that I operate in Madison and Milwaukee, Wisconsin. From there, we kind of started to build. I became a franchise broker so I can help people get into a good franchise. I have an agency called, that's where you got Franchise Voltage from. Also going into Business Voltage, I have an agency of business coaching. And Leadership Voltage is my leadership model. And that is my most recent book, Leadership Voltage, Capturing Lightning with the Triadic Balance, which helps leaders put themselves in the right mind so that they can grow without burning out.
Fantastic. Many, many things to talk about. First, thank you for your service. Very, very grateful for that. Where do we start? So tell me first, I guess, Mosquito Nix is a franchise, correct?
Correct.
And I'm not familiar in what industry?
So it's outdoor living,
Okay.
but pest control as well. So what we do is we have an automated misting system, kind of like when you go to the grocery store and you see the vegetables getting sprayed. We do that on homes, businesses, including, and we're food safe. So we can do it, restaurants, anything like that. And it sprays 3 times a day, so it controls biting insects. It's a great concept. They've been around for 20 years. Started out in Texas and then franchised out of Jacksonville. I heard about them when I was looking for a place to put my retirement and grow into the next version of myself, and really fell in love with the family and the brand. Great products, and took the leap and opened up here in Wisconsin.
So I think you said are you still in corporate, or you were still in corporate when that happened?
Yeah.
And we talked a little bit about my background before we started recording, and things get uh, certainly the lines get blurred for me in terms of like, when did this start, when did this get layered on, and all of that. So maybe so the listeners and myself can understand, like, because I think that I mean, this is a common theme on the podcast, common theme in my life, but I think, ultimately maybe we tend to underestimate what we can do until we just do it, and then realize, well, that wasn't so bad. Let's throw on another thing. And so I think that I'd love to kind of hear about how you approach that, like your mindset behind, okay, I'm in corporate, I'm doing this. Oh, by the way, I'm gonna open up a franchise.
Oh, by the way, yeah. So it wasn't just one thing. I've been putting myself out there for a while, and um, I think the gender transition is what started the courage, right? Because for many years prior to that, right, maybe there were thoughts, maybe there weren't. I mean, if you ask 20-year-old me if 40-year-old me would be in this situation, I'd probably tell you no, right? No way would I. But I think it was the learning of the courage there. And the military background helps because it's all disciplined leadership. So everything I do is intentional. I wake up intentionally and I go to bed intentionally every day. And I know that sounds crazy, but I think when you start getting intentional about your time, you find the space that you're losing because you're sitting down, you weren't doing anything, you weren't moving in the forward direction. So in March of 25, my cousin committed suicide, and she was a childhood friend, like one of my childhood best friends. Her and my cousin Samantha and I were all very close together. And then when that happened, it kind of helped with that wake up call. So I started looking harder at how do I build long term wealth. I started looking at where can I put my investment money? Where can I put this 401k that I know by the time I'm 65 is not going to last me until the time I'm 90, if I get to 90. So how do I start building long term wealth? I started looking into that. Franchising became a good opportunity. Um, and so I think you started the question by asking, are you still in corporate? The answer is yes. I am a product line leader
Okay.
and senior program manager. So I solve problems every day for a life. That's what I do. And so and I would have to agree with you that we are very much programmed to not challenge ourselves after we get our job, after we get into our career, after we get somewhere. We don't challenge ourselves. So part of this growth journey that I'm on, I'm also a motivational speaker. So my watch me do it anyway mindset is very similar to what you're saying. Like, how many times have you had an idea where the people closest to you are like, "Oh, you wouldn't do that," because they're projecting onto you their
Right.
fears. And so one of the things I love to do is I don't maybe love is a bad word, but I absolutely like proving people wrong when it comes to what I can accomplish as a person, because I'm the only one that can limit myself. So the Watch Me Do It Anyways is all about eliminating the word can't from your mindset, getting rid of that limiting language. But as we transformed in 2025, so as I get back to the main point I was making, Mosquito Nix ended up being one of the 3 franchises that I found that I liked. Went down to Jacksonville, met with that family, and fell in love with the brand, fell in love with the product, and was like, yes, please. So we started that project, and by we, I mean me and the mouse in my pocket. So we started this project, and at the same time, Beverly Hills Publishing reaches out to me and says, "Hey, we like your idea. We like what you're doing with what with your corporate. We think that we can help you write your book on it. We think we can help you expand." I said, "Ooh, do I have the capacity?" And that was a question we all have to ask ourselves. So, kind of looking at my schedule, said, "Okay, what can I intentionally move around?" Called them back, said, "Yeah, let's do it." About 20 days later, another opportunity fell into my lap to become a franchise broker, which requires more training and more work because I'm working with Franchise Brokers Association. So now I got three major projects going on, and a week later, another opportunity falls in, which was everything disc. I'm a disc facilitator and a retailer. So then I don't know. Towards the end of the year, things are starting to work out, and then John Maxwell leadership team calls me. "Hey, we want you to become a certified coach." I said, "Great, sounds like a fun plan," because I think everybody needs to grow, not just professionally, but personally as well, and within their faith. So, or whatever spiritual realm they live in. So here I am, thinking I'm growing, and I get through this at the end of 2025. Right, I had three new businesses, three new business ventures, a brand new opened mosquito nets in the area. I'm trying to promote that. Lost my GM in the middle of this, so I'm doing the work on top of the corporate job that I have, and had tragedy. Right, so my mom passed at that time as well, and my aunt, who was a rock for me. So here we are, in one of these areas, and what I learned in 2025 is very similar to the point you just made at the very beginning of the question you asked me. Is that as we move forward, we learn like a muscle that we can do more. And if we keep that muscle moving and we train it every day in our lives intentionally, right? I'm not saying put all this on your plate and then don't sit down with somebody like me as a business coach and not put a plan together and get to the end. So I would say that I found a new baseline. And with a mindset like that, I find that, okay, I can grow on a baseline, but if I'm trying to return to where I was, that's when things start to fall for me.
Are you planning a remodel or construction project? Overwhelmed by the process? Over budget? Extended timelines? Strained relationships? We are all too familiar. At Lark Construction Services, we help homeowners and business owners take control of their construction journey, from reviewing bids and contracts to catching red flags before they become costly mistakes. Our Clarity Audit is a one-on-one expert review of your plans, estimates, or current progress, giving you the peace of mind and a defined action plan to move forward with confidence. Don't let confusion lead to costly errors. Visit larkconstruction.com and schedule your free call today. Lark Construction Services, saving you time, money, and stress.
Yeah, I like that concept of I set a new baseline is such a, I mean, it's kind of simple, I guess, when you think about it, but like also I haven't thought about it that way, but that is really the reality is like yes, you have to kind of build the muscle of taking on more things, achieving more and all of that. But ultimately the nice part about that is like you do create that new baseline, and then you might add in another thing and it becomes a new baseline. And the other word that you used a lot there was intentionality. And I one of my favorites. I think a lot of positivity can be born out of tragedy, which you went through that, some of those in the last year. I think there's many things, and that's a lot of, the podcast being Know Your Why. Like one of the things is it's not necessarily, sometimes it's a thing that happened, right? It's like for me, I realized kind of this concept when we had our first son, and it was like, now I have to keep another person alive and like provide for that. Like this little blob of a human can't do anything for himself. Like he can't. And so it completely changed what I looked at, the value of my time and where I wanted to spend it and all of that. And so that baseline happened, and then added businesses, and then had another kid, and like but you got to decide to do it, right? You got like, that's where that intentionality, you got to decide like, I'm gonna be around them. That's what I decided, right? So you whatever your thing is, you're deciding, I'm gonna make space for this in my life, and setting this like hierarchy of priorities to match whatever you're trying to intentionally achieve. So I mean, I just love the way that you speak about it, because I think that it's not easy, but like there's some simple things that you just have to do that are kind of a part of adding and shifting that baseline. So I really like the way that you kind of spoke to it, which I guess makes sense as a business coach and motivational speaker. You would have
I really call it, Jason, I really call this relentless consistency, right? It's not, and it's, you could call it routine, you can call it whatever you want, but it's relentless consistency. I may not want to drink my 24 or 40 ounces of water today, but I'm going to do it before I go to bed, and I'm going to do that because it's going to grow me. I may not want to make my bed when I wake up, but I'm going to do that because when I get home, at least I know I did something right today, right? A little bit of that Navy stuff there for you. But, and then when I have 4 kids as well. So, I mean, I completely understand, right? They're all teenagers. I have a senior in high school, a sophomore, freshman, and then a 7th grader. So, I mean, and we're working through this. And you have to be able to figure out, how do I prioritize what I'm doing and where we're going. So if I stop doing anything right now, what's going to happen in 6 weeks from now is the question I'm asking myself. If I don't do the work that I need to do today, what's going to happen in 6 weeks from now? And what is most important for me to get done today? So if I can answer those questions in the morning, or on Sunday when I'm planning, or in the evening before I go to bed, well then when I'm working through my day, I know, okay, yes, this was important for me to do, but this other thing came up that I have to do. And so I can intentionally put myself here. And why that's harder for me, and why I created the triadic balance in leadership voltage in the first place, was because I am a neurodivergent. So I'm highly ADHD. So if I don't have something to bring me back to where I was, then by the end of the day, I'll have done a million things, but none of those will be a million right things. There'll be all the things that I was going. I'll find a way to come up with a new leadership framework. I'll find a way to come up with to do more neuroscience research. I'll find a way to build on shadow, ash, and grace. And none of that was what I needed to do for my business today. So that's where I find intentionality really helps me.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think that that framework of I've got to get these things done. These are the most important things for that day. In a lot of ways, to me, it sounds it's probably sounds rigid and not very fun to a lot of people, but I think it's actually the opposite. It becomes freeing when you've decided these are the things that are most important. And I like, this is maybe a silly example, but it's a true example for me. It's like, I used to say, I can't work out in the morning. I was like, I can't work out in the morning. I feel terrible when I do it. And now I get up at 4:30 in the morning to go to the gym, so that I'm done with that piece to get to the rest of the day. And it's like, you know what? My kids aren't up then. And so it's like, I can get that done. Something that's important to me for so many reasons, I can get that done, to make space for the other things. And it's like, you build that structure so there's space when something doesn't fit the structure. Like I mean, this is, again, silly but recent. My daughter trying to build a Lego set that's way too complicated for her, and she gets it halfway through one of the steps, and then I have to undo it and help her get that, so it's like, but that's the stuff that's important. That's the stuff that I really want to do. And so you get the things on your list structured in there so that it's like, oh, okay, well, guess what I just found out I'm doing for the next hour. I'm building Legos with her. Like that's, and having that ability to do that, knowing that, okay, here's my my schedule, or my like prioritization outside of when she's here right now. So I just love the framework and kind of the way that you describe it. It just makes so much sense.
Thank you.
With all this going on, you write a book. Talk a little bit about the book. Talk a little bit about who it might be speaking to, who would benefit from reading it.
Yeah, for sure. So what we didn't talk about yet is in my corporate job, since I got out of the Navy, one of my specialties has become program recovery. So what happens is I end up going into a program that is overrun, over budget, and probably not going to be done on time. So along with that, what I've learned is a pattern of either a people problem or a process problem, and where do you want to put yourself? So for a long time, I was not able to write that down and tell you exactly what I did until I started working with a thought partner on, okay, so what is it that continues to take these recovery programs that I'm working on and accelerate the growth, accelerate everything, their success, accelerate the relationships within them? What are we doing? And so what I learned is that besides the fact that I love chaos, right? So I love chaos because I like to take chaos and put a boundary around it, help structure that chaos, and then allow that chaos to continue to grow and work in many different ways, right? And so Leadership Voltage was born from that. And what I ended up finding out is that there's three core truths, is what I call it, as part of my Radiant Resilience framework. So the three core truths of shadow, ash, and grace. Shadow being your truth teller or your shame spiral, depending on which way you're going. Ash is your protector, right? Or that fire that burns things down. And then grace is the connector or the love, the relationship piece. And most of the books that I was reading when I was looking at self-help books and learning about myself, trying to figure out where am I, where am I going, what is my why, to your point. What I have found is that Simon Sinek, Malcolm Gladwell, they talk about the why behind the why. Mm-hmm. My favorite author, Brene Brown, right? She talks about the shame. She talks about the things and vulnerability, the things that are absolutely uncomfortable, which helped me learn that. And then over with Angela Duckworth or Mel Robbins, Jocko Willink over on this ash side, right? That gives you that protection and teaches you how to do that. There's plenty of other authors that I was reading that fell into one of these three camps, but none of them were telling me, how do I do this? Okay, I understand what I need to do, just like losing weight. I know that I need to go to the gym to lose 10 pounds. I know that I need to fix my diet to lose 10 pounds. I can do it. I just choose to intentionally do something different. So what I was struggling to find in this is, how do I do this? How do I figure this out? What I found is that there's a combination of all three of these energies within a good team. So each team will have a balance of shadow, ash, and grace in order to grow without, and if you think about it, an unbalanced team, and you've seen these ones, right? They're the charismatic leader who gets nothing done, but everybody loves, right? So then what happens? Somebody like me comes in and fixes it for you, right? And I was trying not to be that person that everybody hated, right? Because you know that, right? When somebody comes in, they're like, hey, oh, by the way, we're 6 months behind, so talk to your kids because we're going to be here on weekends, right? How do we avoid those things? How do we avoid that? How do we put process in place? So what I found is, first, focus on the team, build that team, show them what they actually are capable of doing, and then grow from within the project and within the program, within the business, and transform from the inside out. So we're not talking about complete transformation, because if you know anything about transformational leadership, if you want to transform, you have to break everything. You have to be ready to break everything. Most businesses I work with, most people, most leaders, they're not ready for that yet, right? So I help them get ready for that by showing them what they're capable of and seeing how we can take the 8 hours of our day that I have you at work, intentionally work to a structured goal, set that, and then accomplish to start building the momentum. We started doing that, and I do that on all my teams. But as I was mentioning, I didn't have a way to say this. How do I say this? How do I put this down? Before my gender transition, I was a master mason. Recently retired or resigned from that, because I have a lot of respect for that fraternity. But what does that do? What I learned in the masonry, and I won't tell you any of the stories or secrets here, but what I will tell you is that the framework within there, right, is built on a structure that works to help others build. So I'm looking at what is going on in Freemasonry, what is going on in the world of leadership in my perspective, and then I took my military discipline and I took all three of those, kind of mashed them up, right, and brought something out that helps others. So one story I talk about in this book is the first program that I came into after my Navy career. And I was new as a program manager with a new company. I was not supposed to get this program when I first got there. I'm glad I did, because I love recovery programs. But what happened was, I got this program and the whole team said, we can't deliver this. We can't do this. And we can't. And this is my least favorite word in the world, can't. And it's the highest, and I just a plug here. In my house, since we were talking about kids, that's the number one curse word in my house, can't. So we try not to say it. Like, there are a lot of curse words, 4-letter words. As a sailor, I know how to use them all. So as we transition into this team, I started realizing that we had the tools, but we were avoiding the hard things. Like you mentioned, going to the gym early in the morning. Well, when you're younger and you say, I can't wake up, you're probably right, because you told yourself you're not able to do it, so you won't. So what I was finding is that we were looking at the hard things and saying, oof, we're not able to do that. There's too much going forward. So I broke down the hard things, started making them smaller and easier, balanced the team, and then started putting the processes in place around the team such that we could drive growth. And I talk about that a lot in my book. I talk about the Radiant Resilience Framework, the seven elements, the 5 levels of light, and the 3 core truths, and how to balance a team is as essential as the work that's going on with Brene Brown and Simon Sinek and Mel Robbins. The work that they're doing is fantastic. But I wanted to teach people how to put that into a system, how to synthesize that, and how to move it forward. And I'll let you digest that before I tell you about the 14 different areas of the business and of leadership voltage and the voltage system that were implemented as part of this, that now have become with the power of AI, have become an automated way of regulation. So we are now measuring operational effectiveness and emotional intelligence side by side. And what I learned is, when you apply the triadic balance to leadership, your team will grow with you instead of burning down as you grow.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. I love that framework. The interest, I mean, I think, and we've talked about it a lot on this podcast, is just like the concept of team. And I think the reality of, we earlier we touched on, well, how do you get a lot done, or, take on a lot, change your baseline. So it's team. I mean, I think that's the other piece of it that's very important, is the people around you and who you've got working with you. So conceptually, these kind of ideas around team, and you said that one of the ones that jumped out at me right away was, you just said, show them, that they can do more. And I think that's, like, at least for me, that's probably the most vital piece of it, because I recognize the value of team. I think maybe if people don't, they should, but like you're gonna meet that framework at different spots. I also I won't let my kids say can't. I think that as soon as that word comes out of their mouth, I'm like, try that a different way. We don't say that word here. So I do think that's, I tell them you can say you need help, which is directly correlating to this, like, team concept. And I like that you described I'm going to probably explain this wrong, but I mean, just the maybe reallocation of the team, or that to me makes a ton of sense, because I think probably in a lot of instances, you might, especially in larger organizations, you might not have the right people in the right seats, even though you might have the right people. And so it can be just figuring out how to get to that point where you're operating that team at, its most efficient way, but also just in a way that makes people, enjoy the environment, kind of have a feeling of worth and excitement about what they're doing, which I think, really helps the efficiency overall.
There's nothing worse than being on, having the skill sets and being on a team where either you're underutilized or in the wrong position, right? So when you're looking at your team, and this is why I started working with Everything Disc, and doing and looking at the behavioral side of leadership, is because as a practitioner, implementing that into what I'm doing in a leadership position. And as I started to see, okay, how does my team react, or what is going to happen here? I'm able to, not only can I give them a little bit of what they actually do, like what they were hired to do maybe, but what I start to learn is that they want more. So their capacity is not full. So I give them more, right? And then I work with them, and I figured out, okay, now I can show that they're doing more. So it happens to be that a good, productive, well-balanced team not only gets more done, is more profitable, is able to do things in environments that no one else is doing. They grow faster, and they promote faster, right? And the other part of what you said about team, I think the struggle a lot of times is not everybody played team sports. Everybody that I know has been part of a team, right? Whether that be a family, a relationship, a sports team, a band team, whether or not you're whether or not you've done anything in your life, there's very little chance you have not done it with somebody. And when you do it with somebody, if you look at that and you look at what is the purpose of a team. So one of the things that I like to do when I get into my teams is to define, what is this team? What is a team? And sometimes sometimes people get frustrated because they think they know. We're like, okay, but what is this team? What is our team today? And once you define it, it gives them purpose. And then we can start to buy in. And once we have buy-in of that team, we accelerate the growth, right? So each team is different, and there are similarities from each team. Like I said, I can find the energy in each one of those teams, and balancing that energy in order to create the most successful team is fantastic. It's a lot of fun, actually. When I say fantastic, I mean I enjoy it. They may not always enjoy it right away, but to that program that I was talking about, my very first program, that program was a production program. The company that we were working for, this is a long tail program. We're talking 3-year program. And the company I was working for, or we were working for at the time, or the client, customer, however you want to call it, they were going to compete the next order because we were not projecting a very good timeline. So we added a little bit of urgency to what we needed to do, which is always helpful when you're trying to transform.
Yeah.
And then, well, John Cotter says that, right? So you add urgency and you can accelerate growth. So we were able to add the urgency there. And then we delivered this program that was supposed to be a year late and over budget. We delivered this program during COVID, early to the shipyard, and within the full. I wouldn't say under budget because I would love to say that, but within the full contract value, right? So we didn't necessarily lose money here, but we didn't really make any either. And then but we also were able to secure the next project, and I think since I've left, they've had 3 more ongoing. So that's the power of leadership voltage, or the triadic balance, written down in my book, right? And that's just one of the multiple teams that I talk about that we have done this across my leadership life. I started coaching when I was 14 years old in sports. So across my leadership life, I've coached hundreds of teams, right? And sometimes we redefine the winning. What does winning mean? If I lose a game 3-2, did I win or lose? Right? Okay, I lost by that game. I did not score enough points, or I ran out of innings, or I ran out of time to fully get to that W or that win. But did I win or lose? And did I give everything I can? Did the team set the goals that we needed to set to win? We want the score at the end of the game to be higher than the opponent. Obviously, we know that's winning. But when you define winning within your team, sometimes that doesn't mean beating the other team on the scoreboard. It may just mean beating yourself or your past self, or being better today than I was yesterday. And did I give myself enough grace to be able to move forward today? So when we talk intentionality a little bit ago, Jason, I mentioned that I have things that I have to do today. Mm-hmm. I also know when I go to bed that those things that I have to do are going to be done. But the things that I needed to do, they're on my to-do list, and they're not done yet. If I don't get those done by the time I go to bed, I'm not going to beat myself up for that other percentage of work. As long as I was able to get this, 5 items, 5 tasks done today. For me, that's intentional. This podcast, preparation for this podcast, coming on this podcast and talking to you was one of those, and the research behind that, right? So the 45 minutes that we get to talk, right, was actually a 2.5 or 3 hour preparation to be able to come in here and say something worth saying, such that it lands with your viewers as much as I want to talk, because I can do that. How do I help the viewers who are out there? So, and I think that's the power, not just of Leadership Voltage. My Business Voltage brand, that's our coaching agency. So that's just bringing on more business coaches. And I recently have that. That's an operating system in itself that I use. We focus on profit first, targeting businesses between 1 million and 5 million. But I will work with startups, and then also franchise voltage, which is all about helping people get into business. So it's all kind of connected, but it starts with that balance. Whether it's life, and I learned that as I was writing this book, I started seeing everything in threes. all of what I saw, and I don't like everything, but most of what I was seeing, I could see in threes. You know, what is the function of this organization? Okay, it's broken up into at least three different segments. Where am I at when it comes to motion? It's broken up in three different segments. It's interesting when that happens, but by kind of compressing it down to these three core truths and understanding who we are as a person, and understanding and then diagnosing our teams as a team, we're also able to then start growing. But until you know, how do you grow?
Yeah. One thing that came to mind when you're talking about, you know, the concept of winning and what that really means is kind of one of my favorite all-time quotes from Michael Jordan is, he says, I never lost a game, I just ran out of time. And it's really, really applicable to the business, to the business world, or say self-improvement type of things, because essentially the business has an infinite time frame. So it's like, okay, well, we might not win per se on the scoreboard today, but in the grand scheme of this week or the month or the quarter or the year, whatever it is, like, you can use, if you can expand your time horizon and take a larger view at what you're doing, while also having that, you know, kind of day-to-day intentionality that you spoke of, like that's a recipe for winning just about every single time. Like it's hard to lose if you stick to the plan and just keep doing it until you've won. Like I really do think that's a very powerful concept in combination with what you're talking about. And I think it allows you to maybe in your mind shift what winning looks like. You know, you mentioned making your bed because that means I won at that thing that day. You know, I got that thing. And it's like, it's true. It's like, well, what are the things that I know I can get right in the day to show that I've, you know, I've done that. I've done some things right.
What are my small wins, right? And measuring them as small as, you know, if yesterday, right, going to bed at 9 o'clock, if you go to bed at 9 o'clock, right? If going to bed at 9 o'clock didn't happen, but you realize now, because you're intentional about it, you realize that the 9 o'clock to 9:45 that you ate a bag of chips and sat on the couch. Okay, so I could have went to bed at 9 p.m. Okay, maybe tomorrow, right? I can say, okay, tomorrow, I want to be in bed by 9 p.m. And now I have to look at, okay, but I know I'm going to be hungry because maybe I fed my kids, got back on the computer, forgot to eat, and now I know I'm going to be hungry. Okay, what if I take 5 minutes to eat with my kids?
Mm-hmm.
What if or instead of sitting up and watching that TV show, what if I go to bed right now, wake up tomorrow with more clarity? What if I wake up tomorrow with more intention? And we're all in control of this, which is why I don't like the word can't, right? Like we talked about, because we're in control of it. Now, what I can say is, well, I can't do that. Okay, sure, you won't. I promise you will not do anything that you say you can't do until you do it. So, and you can do anything you want to do. You can take anything and put the power. They told me, you know, that this transition was going to be hard. People were going to stop talking to me. They weren't going to be my friend anymore. They weren't going to do this. I said, I'm still me. I still have the same character that led me on those 5 deployments. I still know the same people. I still perform at the same level. Maybe, actually, that may be the only thing I don't perform at. I'm at a higher level now than I was before because I don't have an inner conflict anymore going on. I'm able to regulate with my children. I'm able to regulate with my business. In 2025, someone said to me, everybody's waiting for you to slow down or fail. Well, I said, well, they can wait and watch for a long time because they can watch me do this or they can join me. But either way, tell me I'm not able to do something and I will find a way to go do it.
Yeah.
Because it's just what I want to do. I mean, I want to help people become the best version of themselves. I am not the best at anything at all. But I promise you that I am very good at getting the best out of someone else. So when I walk into a room, I don't need to be the center of attention. But when I leave that room, I want everybody in the room to feel brighter than they did before I walked in. And if I can accomplish that, if I can change the energy of a room, even without being the center of attention, I'm okay with that. I'm okay leading from the bench. I am okay with that. But I am going to do everything I can to make sure that the players that are playing at 100% of their capacity.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love it. I love it. I love that idea. I think I also think it's a perfect transition here to asking you the question of the hour. Of course, what is your why? And I mean, I think you've done a lot to kind of express that already. I think, Danny, in a broad sense. But I want to let you give you the chance to just answer the question directly. What is your why? What's really done so much already? What keeps you going?
I have this ability from a very young age to see you as the you that you want to be. And that fills me, right? So when I see you, and I can see you as the person you want to be, or the business that you want to be, or the leader that you want to be, and you're struggling to see that, my why is because I want to see a better human-centric world. I want to see people who are kind and caring and don't need to step on each other to get to the next level. I've unlocked that part of me. I want everybody to come with me as I go. So leading from within is what I talk about. And when I say that, I mean, how do I lift an organization without being at the top or the bottom of it? At the top, there's not enough people to lift. At the bottom, there's too many. But if you're within the organization and you have the right mindset, you are able to lift those people around you. So during my transition, so I had two transitions that I'm going to talk about. And hopefully I'll get it done in 30 seconds or less. So in the first transition was leaving the Navy. And I've been divorced, and I say this not lightly. Leaving the Navy was one of the hardest breakups of my entire life. And transition from male to female was the second hardest transition of my life. Who I was before and going into who I am today required me to break everything. And I bring that up only because during that time, I also realized that I wasn't the only person going through something. I wasn't the only person that had an issue. I wasn't the only person that tied their identity to their service. I wasn't the only person that tied or, changed genders in the middle of life, right? And I also had the time and energy to be able to give that back to others. So as a religious person, when I was praying about this, I just kept hearing the same message. I'm not done with you yet. Okay, so what am I supposed to do? Go lead. So here I am doing my absolute best to give things back to everybody around me, because that's what fills me up. Helping others succeed is why I'm a coach, because I want to put as much or more into you than you are.
That's great. Great. When people hear this and they want to connect with you, what's the best way? I know, of course, we're going to have a lot of this in the show notes, but what's your primary source of contact?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, right? Danielle Joleigh Bennett, Danielle Joleigh Bennett.com, right? So DANIELLE, not one. And then you can find me, watch me do it anyway.com. That's my key. But I want everybody to go to DanielleJoleighBennett.com, fill out the contact me form. Once this airs, the first 5 callers will receive something from me, or not 5 callers, but 5 scheduled will receive something from me for free in the mail.
That's great. We'll get all that in the show notes. this was fantastic. I really, really do appreciate you being on the show, sharing everything with us that you did. I think there's so much important, just like conceptual value amongst being a human and also, business owner, entrepreneur, that sort of thing. So thank you so much for coming on the show. I really, truly appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It was a very enlightening conversation. Thank you.
Folks listening, make sure you connect with Danny. Please like, rate, and review the show so we can continue to get great guests. And as always, thank you so much for listening.
Hey there, I am Dr. Jason Balara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast, where we explore the why behind success. Every week, I meet with real estate investors, veterinary entrepreneurs, mindset coaches, authors, and fitness professionals to uncover their why and how it drives them on the winding road to success. What is your why?